Well, 16 minutes before 7 here on Morning Live. Thanks so much for watching. Now, South African Airways is offering its staff severance and incentive packages estimated at 580,000 Rand each. And according to a City Press, this is part of the business restructuring plan that would see nearly 3,700 of the 4,700 employees lose their jobs. But late yesterday, the Department of Public Enterprises withdrew from the forum that was supposed to develop a new operating model for the national airline. And in a statement released yesterday, the department accused the unions of not having the employees' interest at heart. So to discuss this further, we join now by Phakamile Hlubi-Majola, who is the spokesperson of National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa, as well as Zazi Nsibanyoni-Mugambi, who is the president of the SA Cabin Crew Association. Thanks so much, ladies, to both of you for speaking to us this morning.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Phakamile, if I could start with you. The reports that there has been an offer and that the department withdrew from these negotiations last night, can you please just verify for us?
Yes, indeed, Sakina. The DPE late last night sent a letter or a statement where they basically said that they were withdrawing from the Leadership Consultative Forum, which is a forum where we have been engaging with the Department of Public Enterprises on a turnaround strategy for South African Airways. They have accused us of working with Airlink in an attempt to undermine and workers. They believe that the decision that we took to push for an adjournment of the vote on the business rescue plan to 14th of July is evidence of us colluding with Airlink. We want to make it very clear, Sakina, that this is nothing more than an attempt by DPE to blackmail NUMSA, SACA, and the SA Pilots Association for providing an alternative, particularly because we all know that this plan is a bad plan, it's a deficient plan, and quite frankly, it's disingenuous for DPE to try and blackmail workers into accepting something which they know very well. It's not only in the interest of workers, it's not in the interest of SAA. This plan will eventually result in the collapse of SAA, and this is why we reject it.
Phakamile, when you say this is a bad plan, what exactly do you mean by that?
Well, first and foremost, Sakina, the plan speaks about an SAA which only takes off next year. Now, that is a fundamental flaw in the plan. There are airlines which, as we speak, are operating. And if SAA is only going to take off next year, you are basically ensuring its collapse because its market share will be taken up by global competitors. Secondly, this plan talks about an SAA with only 1,000 staff. The plan we proposed was a plan that was based on a minimum of about 2,900 workers, ramping up to about 3,200. So, and DPE went and lied to the BRPs, claiming that we were satisfied with 1,000 workers, which we never were. There were many, many examples in our engagement with DPE where there was dishonesty taking place on the side of the ministry, and the engagements with us have been done in bad faith. None of the proposals we have made in relation to the business rescue plan have been incorporated into the final plan, and we have not been consulted as is demanded by the Companies Act.
So what exactly did the department lie about, Phakamile?
Particularly, as I said, on the issue of Labour being comfortable with a startup of 1,000 employees. And also the dishonesty for us was the fact that they kept us engaging for 6 weeks, making us think that all of the proposals that we are making are going to be submitted in the final plan. And then on literally hours or 2 days or so before the plan was published, it became very clear that all of the engagement that we'd done, all of the proposals that we'd made in terms of how to make the airline more viable, for example, one of the things that for us is really crucial is that the new airline must definitely tackle the bloated procurement costs. As you know, Sakina, on average, about 25 billion rand was spent on procurement on SAA. A lot of that expenditure has been exposed through various forensic reports as being either corrupt or a result of mismanagement. Both the DPE and the BRPs refuse to deal with that as an issue. So if you're not going to tackle that major problem which collapsed SAA in the first place, and then you want to continue with that type of practice in the new airline, you are effectively ensuring that it's going to collapse.
Zazi, in terms of the packages that have been offered to your members, can you please just outline those for us and what has been your members' response to it?
Well, firstly, we've been asking all along in the Leadership Compact to find out exactly what it is that is going to be put forward in terms of packages. And the same day we heard about the number of 1,000 is when the packages were presented to us. Obviously, it's changed since then. And we were really taken aback. And I just want to add on to what Phakamile said just quickly about the 1,000. We believe, the number of the startup of 1,000, we made it very clear to the department that we do not mind starting up, but we need an assurance that as the airline ramps up, there is a sort of holding pattern for the rest of the members or the employees that are there. And this would not be a burden on South African Airways in the form of a training layoff or job sharing in terms of furlough. We've put so many proposals that were not taken into account. And the number of 2,900 actually was a number that we got from the DPE. And we were working based on that. And they withdrew that 2009 just at the last minute. And they offered us VSPs, which obviously we had to take back and sort of work with and play with numbers. They made it very clear that they only have 2.2 billion to spare. So we were taking that figure and trying to rework it to see how best it can suit what we are trying to achieve. And the number of 580,000 per employee is just false. I mean, if you read the package, it basically says, for instance, our members, which is Saka and NUMSA on average, will get out around 300,000 rand. And we accept the fact that people will be rehired back, but people have to live through the next year or the year and a half as SAA ramps up to a fully functional phase. So the department really is just playing games with us. And quite frankly, we cannot just stand back and be, strung along. And the VSPs, by the way, they asked us to sign a letter just before the creditors' meeting in order to influence the vote. And we cannot do that where we are blackmailed. We are mandate driven. We take a mandate from our members. And this VSP is only to be offered once the creditors have voted. The creditors have not voted. So it should be no real emergency here. And the department, if they really want to deal with us, let's sit down, let them explain and break down what the VSP means, the new offer, so that we understand. We have questions to ask. We have questions of clarity. And thereafter, structure it in a proper way, in an agreement, so we can take it back to our members for a mandate. But quite frankly, all we have right now is a letter that was meant to influence the creditors' meeting, which is not acceptable to us.
So that means, therefore, it hasn't been presented to your members?
No, our members have the letter. We present everything that we get to our members. But like I said, the creditors, if you read the letter, it's very clear that the creditors must vote before the packages are extended. And also, if you were part of the BRP presentation, they made it very clear that phase 1 is the creditors voting in favor of the plan, and phase 2 will be government securing funding and also agreement being finalized with Labour around the VSP. So the sudden rush and the blame game that's been put on us is really unfair. And we are all fighting for the same thing, which is we do not want the liquidation of SAA. If you want to present a plan to the creditors, let the plan be a plan that creditors will vote in favor of. Now, if you see the 69%, we did not influence 69% of the creditors. We don't have that ability. They voted for the adjournment. They obviously saw what we saw, which is a defective plan that had no real details, no assumptions, no details even on the 1,000 employees as to how they'll look, how did they come about that number, no detail on the gauges. They have even failed to explain why they have not returned the leased aircraft that were parked for the last couple of months, which have attracted massive, massive costs. So instead of pointing the finger at us, the DPE must point the finger at themselves and the business rescue practitioners.
Now, in that statement that was released yesterday, the department accused the unions, as you said, the two that you've mentioned, and the SAA Pilots Association of not having employees' interests at heart, and citing the whole issue around SA Airlink there, and the department effectively saying that if this action that you have embarked on, were to be successful, you are essentially enabling a competitor through your actions of putting perhaps more strain on getting SAA restructured and maybe taking to the skies earlier, etc., etc. So how do you respond to that? First, Zazi, and then I want to hear from Phakamile as well.
Sakina, we have no interest in enabling competitors, firstly. So that's just pure propaganda, and we take offense to that. Airlink brought an application to interdict the vote that was going to happen on the 25th. Ourselves, Saka Numsa and the pilots went to court to oppose that particular liquidation or the possible liquidation that Airlink was trying to put forward. So how are we the people that are trying to make sure Airlink collapses SAA? No, we did not. And also, on the adjournment, we put different presentations forward as to why we seek an adjournment. There are certain aspects of the Companies Act that were not fulfilled, and obviously the recourse that we wanted was different. It wasn't the same. Our recourse was not the same as Airlink, for instance. And Airlink alone, let me just be very clear, Airlink alone would not have voted in favor of an adjournment. We have 69%, which should include the banks and the big players that obviously saw that there's an issue with this plan. So to use Airlink as a poster child to try and portray us in some negative light is a cheap shot, and we take offense. Airlink put their own proposal forward. We put our own forward. Creditors voted. There's no collusion there.
Phakamile?
Well, absolutely. What Zazi is saying is true. And I think it's very clear to us that the DPE, even now, is still trying to manipulate this process. Because the reality is this: if the creditors had any faith in that plan, they would have supported us proceeding. But instead, the creditors clearly saw that there were serious problems with the plan, and they agreed that rather let's adjourn, let's amend the plan, let's improve the plan, because as it stands, the plan is in danger in the sense where it can be litigated on. So it's frankly irresponsible. It is reckless of DPE to be taking this stance. What DPE should be doing is working with us to amend the plan, because clearly they know very well this is a defective plan. They even confirmed as much a couple of weeks before the BRP vote took place. So for them to turn around and blame us is totally disingenuous.
So to that point, the Labour Consultative Forum was meant to facilitate employee engagement. So how will the withdrawal of the department affect the process of restructuring SAA somewhat amicably? Phakamile?
Well, I think it's going to be a challenge because the Leadership Consultative Forum was precisely that. It was a forum for us to engage on this turnaround strategy. We hope that DPE will see the light. The statement we issued yesterday was not just a call on DPE, but on government to force DPE to act in the interests of all of us. The truth is that we've been hearing about the presence of an investor who is interested in SAA. DPE has not disclosed any of that information. We don't know anything about what expression of interest has been put forward in relation to SAA. This is not the sale of a spaza shop. This is a state-owned entity. DPE must demonstrate seriousness with respect to how they handle this process and show that it cares about workers and work with us to try and resolve this impasse.
So where are the talks right now in terms of restructuring the national carrier, Zazi?
Sakina, let me just make one thing very clear. Was an agreed on forum which is meant to have everyone on board, from the BRPs to the DPE, so we have quick consultations, quick agreement, and move swiftly together to formulate one position. But it's quite evident that that was not the case. We were left behind, and so basically what that means is that according to the law, we still have the employee committee that we can engage on, where the BRPs must come and consult us. And I want to make it very clear that the BRPs to date have not consulted Labour. And instead, BRP has put a position forward for us, which was not completely what we had put forward to the DPE. So, I mean, in terms of engagements, we need to really start engaging. I mean, if it's an employee committee, then so be it. But the plan has to be worked on. We all have the same goals in mind, according to papers, because the DP is accusing us of wanting a liquidation. Absolutely not. What do we have to gain from wanting a liquidation? We all want an SAA that will work. We want a new board, a new executive management that has the capacity to take SAA to the new heights that is expected, and to then reabsorb in the ramp up all the people that have been retrenched, or and be able to take them back. We cannot trust the same old management and board that led us here in the first place. So engagements can still happen. There's a legal forum, which is the employee committee, that we are going to, and we can engage with the BRPs. And the BRPs must also really come to the table. That we are a legal body that they must consult, and they need to do that. And we all need to develop a plan which the creditors will vote in favor of.
And we're out of time. Phakamile, just from your side, what's the way forward now that the department has withdrawn from these proceedings?
The way forward is exactly how Zazi has articulated it. It's a process of genuine engagement. We have a lot to lose here. There's a lot at stake here. And if all we need to do is put our heads together so that we can find one another, so that we can present a plan that will genuinely save this airline in the long term.
Well, thank you so much, Phakamile Hlubi-Majola, spokesperson of the National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa, or NUMSA, as well as Zazi Nsibanyoni-Mugambi, who's president of the SA Cabin Crew Association, talking to us about severance packages being offered to SAA employees and, of course, the breakdown of those consultations. And that brings us up to news time.